Hi, Terry here. I just wanted to take a minute and share something with you. This morning, I dropped my daughter off at school and turned around to head home. And while driving, I was listening to a training. And today, the topic of the training was purpose, finding your purpose and accepting your purpose. And that caused me to reflect back on my daughter, the journey with my daughter, and really looking at where we came from and how we got to where we are today. You see, my daughter is 15 years old. She goes to the high school near our house. She's in the 10th grade. She loves music. She loves friends. She loves being around people. She's an incredibly happy child, but she's anything but a typical teenager. In fact, I'll never forget the day we received the diagnosis. I was it was just another typical morning driving my kids to school. Her older brothers, I was dropping them off at the elementary school. And as I sat there with my hand on my belly, feeling my unborn daughter kick and watching her older brothers scurry away to school to their class, I saw the little yellow bus pull up. Now, you know the bus I'm talking about. And as it pulled up in front of the school, I watched as the doors opened and they unloaded a young man in his wheelchair. And I remember my heart just squeezing just a bit as I felt my daughter kicking, thinking to myself, how on earth do those families do it? I didn't have any idea. I couldn't even begin to imagine. Went on about my day, and partway through the day, my phone rang. A phone call that would change my life forever. The news on the other end is, Terry, you've got to come in for additional testing. It looks like there's a problem with the baby. Well, we got there as fast as we could. It took a few days before we could get in, and that's a story for another day. But the long story short is that on further testing, they determined that my daughter had what they call the life-limiting diagnosis. What she had is a condition called trisomy 18. That simply means she has 3 number 18 chromosomes. To put that in context, you're probably familiar with the syndrome, with Down syndrome. That's actually trisomy 21. Those kids have an extra number 21 chromosome. So the difference is that number 18 is a larger chromosome. It affects more parts of your body, which means that having an extra one can actually kind of screw things up a little bit more. Well, we were crushed. What they told us was that trisomy 18 was incompatible with life. Now, those aren't words any parent ever wants to hear. But they went on to say, here's the best thing you can do, and that's get on with your life. We can schedule you for a couple of days and you can come in and we can interrupt the pregnancy. Well, what they meant was they wanted to terminate my daughter's life. And the scary part was that because they were so compelling, they said, there's no hope. She's not going to live. She will not survive. You don't want to burden yourself. You don't want to burden your children. You don't think of what it will do to your other children. It's just better to basically cut your losses and move on with your life. Well, they sent us home to reflect on that and think about it. And the scary part to me now is that we actually did think about it. It was terrifying. And I realize now that's exactly the reason that we even thought about what they said, was because of the fear we had. We had such a fear of the unknown. But, every day is an unknown. Life is an unknown. And our decision, while they gave us no hope, I turned to the internet. And even 15 years ago, it took a lot of digging. I found all the horrible things they had to say about this syndrome. But as I dug deeper, I found families. And in those families, I found children. And between all the families and those children, some of those children hadn't survived to be born, and some of them had. And regardless, I found that regardless of the path that the families had ended up on, if they'd lost their child or if they were raising their child, their child was loved. Their child was a blessing. They never saw any of it as a burden. Well, at that moment in time, some weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I knew, what, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I know that there's nothing accidental about my daughter's life. Therefore, we're going to give her every chance she has. And if her only chance is the few months that she's inside me, so be it. That's what we'll focus on. And we're going to take it one day at a time. And what we found is that, we that's exactly what we did. We made memories. We embraced her in our life from that moment and just took it one day at a time. I remember as we got closer to the time that she was to be born, I was getting more and more frightened because I realized we were coming to a fork in the road, and a fork that would, in my mind, from what they were telling me, although I knew the possibility out there that she might live, I was terrified that I was going to lose her. But you know what else? remember back to this day I was dropping my kids off at school and I'm watching that child and I'm wondering, how do those parents do it? That was still going through my mind. So I was terrified my daughter was going to die, but I was equally terrified that she was going to live. I wanted her to live. I wanted to have her in her life. I wanted at least the opportunity. I told the doctors, we have to get her into this life alive because I need to at least have 30 seconds to look her in the eyes and tell her I love her. If I have that, it's all been worth it. And I know now that even if I hadn't had that, it all would have been worth it. But that was my main goal. The only expectation I had was that, to be able to hold her and tell her I love her. Well, fast forward to the time she was born, I was terrified. Which path are we going to take? And I really didn't want either one of them. And sometimes we find life puts us in that situation. It's like there's not a good option. I don't like any of the choices. But in that time, you just have to hold on to faith. And there's actually a saying, if you're at a point where you're fearful of doing something, sometimes you just have to take a leap and let your wings unfold as you fall. Well, that's exactly what we did. And we got to the day that she was to be born, had everyone around knowing that time was going to be limited, or at least simply believing that. And she was born and really didn't have, they knew what her situation was before she was born. They just told me she wasn't going to breathe. Well, she did breathe, and then she breathed again. And then she breathed again. And she only required a little bit of oxygen, and she was doing very well. I'll be honest, the doctors had no idea what to do with that. In fact, when she was born, the doctor in the delivery room, because she was alive, declared her a miracle. He had no expectation that he would bring her into this world alive. But apparently Chrissy had other plans. So, fast forward, every day about that was scary. We didn't know how to take care of this medically fragile child, but in the doing of it, we learned how. I couldn't have told you then how I was going to do it, but every day we grew a little bit more. Every day we gained a little bit more. And, as I look back and, reflect from 15 years later, never did we expect to be here. And I look at people say, well, gosh, you're such a good mom, or you're so strong. And I know that parents of special needs kids, it just grates on their nerves to hear that, because we don't any stronger than anybody else. The difference is that we just made a decision, and that decision resulted in a life and a lifestyle that requires us to do the things we need to do. And, you go through a life like that, and you can decide to do it with a chip on your shoulder, or you can decide to do it with your entire heart open. And that's really the journey that we've had. I'm not saying all the days are good, but most of them are. And I can tell you one thing, that anytime that it's not a good day, it's not anything about Christina. Now, there are rocky roads. We've had ups and we've had downs because because of health issues that we've dealt with. But the biggest hurdles that I've had to deal with have been the ones in my mind, has been the blockages where I talk to myself and I tell myself, this isn't the story we had written ahead of time. This isn't how it was supposed to go. And I believe that had it gone either way, I know that if we had lost her, I knew while I was pregnant with her that my journey was then going to be to tell everybody the story of this brave little girl who came to this world for such a short time, but who has touched and changed lives everywhere. I knew that that's how I would spend the rest of my life. I would never forget her. But I was never going to resent her either, and I was never going to resent the journey. Our journey turned to be something different, something I didn't expect. Every day, because they still kept being convinced she wasn't going to survive. And sadly, it's true, many of our kids don't. But if I left the room for too long and someone called me back to the room, my heart would stop. Is now the moment? Is now when? And so finally, about 6 months into her life, we came to a realization, and I won't tell you the whole story now about that, but that we were going to simply embrace her life, and we were going to stop living her death. We were going to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. We were going to stop feeling the pain of the change in our life and start embracing the opportunities and the blessings in our life. Because as we watch Christina, from the moment she was born, she has never had anything that gave you to believe she had a miserable life or that she didn't love every minute of it. You see, I believe she knew before she got here the life she was going to have. And I believe she took it on in some ways to help me become the person I'm supposed to be. And that feeling right there, that belief right there has helped me immensely, because how can I let her down? And so I share all this because I know a lot of people go through a lot of things. And whatever those things are for you, they're significant. I'm not comparing. I'm not saying one journey, oh, my journey is harder, so how come you can't handle, your 3-year-old that screams all night? I'm not saying that. I am saying be grateful for your 3-year-old even if they're screaming all night. I'm saying be grateful for the journey even when it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. And is to think back on purpose. I know my daughter's life has purpose. I know my life has purpose. I know the journey that we're on has purpose. And so, it's not always about finding what your purpose is. Often it's about accepting your purpose. It's about letting go of the conflict inside of you that reminds you that it's not the journey you expected, that you didn't expect these things to happen. And instead allow those things to help carve you and shape you into the person that actually can do those things. Because by doing one day at a time, you exercise the muscle. You aren't born expecting to know how to do everything. You don't come into this world knowing how to do whatever it is you're meant to do. It's all about the journey. It's about accepting it. It's about moving forward. It's about taking one step at a time, letting life unveil itself to you, and doing it with a heart full of gratitude and love. So I hope that this thought has helped you, because it truly is something that you can do it. Whatever it is that's been put in your path, you can do it as long as you decide. And you see, that's the key. Once we made the decision that we weren't going to take the opt-out card that they were trying to hand us, and we were simply going to let our lives move forward the way it was intended, that also necessitated our ability to learn and grow and develop the skills that it took to be a parent of a special needs child. And again, if we had lost her, I know that the journey would have been similar. It would have been necessity for us to move forward and learn skills and grow the skills that it took to be the parent that has lost their child. I share this today hoping that it settles in your heart. I put this out with good intent, and I hope that if you're finding this message, it's because you were meant to hear it today. I feel so blessed today with my daughter, who's so healthy and so happy, and I know other people don't always see what I see in her, because often they see the child and all the things she can't do. But what about you? What do you see in your life that you're putting limits on? And you're, instead of seeing all the possibilities of what you can do, you're only seeing the limits that are put on you. I promise you, if you take a lesson from my daughter and just ignore the fact that anybody has the word limit out there, and just move forward in whatever it is you want to do, that you can accomplish it. I hope this thought has helped you today. I appreciate your time. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye for now.